People have told me that anybody can write, and that's true. Anybody can. It just isn't going to be good. And good is a relative term. There are some folks that have a very rustic style of writing. It's very direct, it's very basic, and that is a good thing because that's their honest voice. If it's something that will draw you in, it can be as flowery as Longfellow, as Hawthorne, Thoreau. It can be as, basic as a newspaper journalist, sports writer, something that's going to draw you in. Creative writing, from elementary school on. When I was in school, they would say, okay, we're going to do creative writing today. This is the idea that you have to write about. This is the plot. And then you'd write like a page or a few paragraphs or a short story. And you'd read it and, oh, thank you very much. And that's it. You got no encouragement. And I should have known then that I was cut out for this because I would come up with plots and twists and character things. But, when you're 11 and you're writing something, it's different than when you're in your 50s and writing something because, squirrel, when you're 11 as opposed to, oh, and a squirrel, when you're in your 50s. So I could write then, and I did write then, and I was encouraged to write then. Oh, you're a good writer. Well, they didn't tell me what I was doing good. They didn't tell me what I was doing bad. They just said, oh, you're a good writer. You're a good storyteller. And thank God I don't have any of those papers left because I have seen some of the stuff that I wrote just 20 years ago. It's like, ooh. Okay, this is a good thing. Hopefully I've reached the point where I'm good enough to get a rejection letter instead of just knowing they simply threw the damn thing out. But yeah, anybody can write. And don't expect to win the Pulitzer. Don't expect to win the Newbery Award. Don't expect to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. Expect to write and tell a story. Expect to entertain somebody, draw somebody in. Expect to make somebody feel something, because that's where you get your worth as a writer, as a poet, as a screenwriter, as any of that. When you have changed somebody from one moment to the next, you've done your job. So, New York Times bestseller list is really cool. If you stop and think of how many authors there are out there and how many get on it, it's a nice achievement, but it's not going to define you. I've known some fantastic authors that never saw it. If you like reading, well, for me, Vermont history and everything, New England history, Dorothy Canfield Fisher, fantastic books and essays and everything about life in Vermont. Robert Pike, you want to learn about all the adventures of the logging operations in the North Country of New Hampshire and Maine, southern Quebec, the log drives on the Connecticut River, the New England response to the cowboys were, the log drives. Those books are fantastic. Never won an award. Didn't need to. That wasn't the worth that they were looking for. If somebody can go and say, I've been there. Oh, that's just like what, I remember like that growing up. They have connected. They've reawakened old memories. They've stepped into another world. That's your success as a writer. Some kid just working on a journal in their room, in private. Fan fiction to share with your friends. That's writing. That's telling a story. That's creating. That's reaching into a part of you and giving life to it. That's what being a writer's all about. So yeah, anybody can write. If you're writing from your heart, if you're writing because you're creating something, mining something, that is the writing that I really, really like. And one thing that I did experience when I was wrestling is that it seemed like everybody was writing their biographies or their memoirs. And I would look at them and I knew that some of these people hadn't been in wrestling much longer than I had. And I got in my late 20s, and I would read, oh, so-and-so's got a book coming out. So-and-so's got a book coming out. Okay, about what? Oh, their wrestling career. They've been doing it for 5 years. For me, a career is something a little longer than that. And I would just sit back and I would remember Mark Twain's advice that you should never write your memoirs unless, 1, you're over 50, or 2, you've done something. Now, if English teachers had been a little more astute in drilling those 2 principles home, we could have been spared volumes of turgid prose and possibly stopped the deforestation of the Amazon for all the paper that got printed. But even then, they were telling a story. Frustrations came when you were approaching it as a historical or a biographical work, when it was probably equal parts biography and fiction. Everybody's the hero in their own story, and it is no less true in wrestling biographies. But that's totally beside the point. And it doesn't disprove what I said, that anybody can write. So, what's stopping you? Get a pen, get a pencil, get a paper, get a laptop, get an iPad, go for it.